Good morning, Lake Havasu City. Welcome to Coffee with the Mayor and City Manager. I'm Mayor Cal Sheehy, joined with City Manager Jessica Knudsen.
Good morning, everybody.
Today is Friday, November 1st, and we're so glad to have you here with us. We have a couple of special things we're going to do before we get started with our normal routines. So we'll do those first, and then we'll go into hot topics that are happening here in Lake Havasu City, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have about anything we covered or anything else that might be on your mind. But each year, I have the ability to participate in a program called the Extra Mile Day. So it's a national day of recognition for citizens within your community that go the extra mile. And so we try to find people that stand out, that do go the extra mile every single day in our community, which is very difficult in Lake Havasu City because we have so many people that do so many great things. But this year, we had one person that really stood apart. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Christine Watson Butenmeyer. If you could come up, Christine Watson. So this lady is the CEO of the Clothes Closet and Havasu Hope, which is a resource center here in Lake Havasu City. It's located on Mesquite Avenue. She is also one of the most humble people that I know, and is so deserving of this recognition. So today we have a proclamation in your honor, Christine. And the proclamation is the Lake Havasu City Extra Mile Day in honor of Christine Watson Butenmeyer, November 1st, 2024. Whereas Lake Havasu City, Arizona proudly joins the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 Extra Mile cities across the nation and is honored to celebrate Extra Mile Day by recognizing outstanding members in our community who consistently go above and beyond. And whereas Lake Havasu City is a community that recognizes the unique vibrancy created when individual citizens go the extra mile through personal dedication, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Lake Havasu City, Arizona is a community that encourages its citizens to enrich the community by giving fully of themselves with effort, commitment, and passion, whether in pursuit of personal goals or conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Lake Havasu City, Arizona is a community that chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile to make a difference and to lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas in honor of Extra Mile Day on November 1st, we recognize Christine Watson Butenmeyer, President and CEO of the Clothes Closet, and a devoted member of our community who has continuously gone the extra mile in heart, mind, and action through her efforts in establishing Havasu Hope and the nonprofit The Clothes Closet Inc. that helps those in need with clothing, food, and other necessities, and always without a charge. And whereas Christine goes above and beyond for this community, working tirelessly in partnership with other nonprofits, the city, schools, churches, hospitals, and generous volunteers and donors to help provide whatever is needed. And whereas through her quiet dedication and selflessness, she embodies the spirit of Lake Havasu City, generously supporting those in need and strengthening the bond that helps our community thrive. Now, therefore, I, Cal Sheehy, the mayor of Lake Havasu City, Arizona, do hereby proclaim Friday, November 1st, 2024 as Extra Mile Heroes Day in Lake Havasu City. And I urge every individual to take a moment on this day to not only go the extra mile in their own lives, but to honor and recognize all who inspire us through their extraordinary efforts, helping to make our community and world a better place. Congratulations, Christine.
Thank you.
Yeah. And again, thank you so much for all that you do. So Christine started her journey with the Clothes Closet out of
My garage.
the garage.
My garage.
Yeah, so if you talk about trials and tribulations of opportunities to just say, I'm not going to do this anymore, Christine's story is the poster child of that. So you hit obstacle after obstacle after obstacle before she was able to move into the great facility on Mesquite, made possible by some great donors. But it all would not be possible without Christine and her vision and her hard work and dedication. So thank you so much. You deserve it. Yes.
I do want to say I could not have done this without all the community. The community's been great. We got an awesome building that someone donated, and all the contractors stepped up to the plate and remodeled it. And most of all, my mom. I could not have done this without her because she kept me going through my husband's cancer, my cancer, and then she kept my business open while I was running around trying to get this started and going. And she would sit and people would come in, she'd take phone numbers and I don't know. But she would take their number and I'd call them back because I could not have done this. And then my husband, David, for all the years of not bringing in any money and not saying anything. If it wasn't for those two also, I couldn't have done this. And all the volunteers that have stepped up and is joining my side, because this is not me. This is a community effort, totally community, not Christine's effort. It's community.
Yeah. Congratulations again. If we could actually have Dave, her husband, mom, and I believe there's a couple of board members or volunteers from the Closed Closet, please make your way up here. Let's take a photo. And if I could also have Councilmember Lane and Councilmember Campbell and Councilmember Diaz join us as well, and we'll take a quick photo.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you.
Oh, you're good. Yeah.
He's working.
Get over there.
Let's all get together and
Good. In here? Okay, yeah, squeeze in a little bit.
Yeah.
There we go.
I think we're good, right?
Yeah.
Get closer, Dave.
All right, congratulations again. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome being
Good to see you. Morning.
I'm off to work.
Yeah. All right. Again, congratulations to Christine and to all the volunteers within our community that do such amazing work. So last month when we ended the coffee, I told you about a trip that I was getting ready to take to go to London. I had the opportunity to be invited by the City of London to go and extend our friendship that we have between our two communities and help further build that bond. So since the City of London owned a piece of property here in Lake Havasu City, which is the property that we used to refer to as the pub down in the English Village. It's a 1 acre area. Currently, that's where the visitor center is at, and the Chair restaurant is on that facility. When the City of London decided that they didn't need to be managing a piece of property halfway across the world, they sold it and they put that money into a trust. And that trust is an educational trust where we send students over to London to go in the summertime for a 2-week immersive course with the Westminster University. And that's administered through the London Bridge Rotary Club. John Parrott's very instrumental in that program. And we want to be able to help build that so it can be sustainable into the future. It's already been going on for nearly 3 decades. But we want to be able to further that to allow more Arizona students that same opportunity to be able to have that exchange and that cultural education exchange. So we talked a lot about that, but I said I would just share some pictures with you. So Steve in the back is going to throw some photos up on the screens, and I'll go through them real quick. There's only a few of them, so I'm not going to bore you with my slideshow. But, sometimes my grandma would put me in here and we'd have to go through every one. But so I was also able to be honored as a Freeman of the City of London, which is an honor that they bestow on folks in the City of London. It allows you a couple of things. You can take sheep across the bridge, so I can now do that legally. You can also be drunk in public, which I don't intend to do, but I have that ability when I'm in the City of London. And it also then is the extension of our friendship. So just in some of the likes of folks that have been Freemen are Woodrow Wilson. There have been obviously Queen Elizabeth, the royal family. I mean, lots of people. Here in Lake Havasu, we also have several as well. We have Linda Binder, who is originally from the United Kingdom, from the London area. We also have John Parrott. We have former Mayor Mark Nexon, Michael McCulloch, who's actually pictured with me. So standing right to the side of me there is Michael McCulloch. That's Mr. McCulloch's grandson, and he helped coordinate the trip. We have next to me in the red robe is the Lord Mayor. He's the 695th Lord Mayor of London. He's also the first U.S. born. So he has connections to the U.K., obviously, but he was born in the U.S. Then there's the Remembrancer, and there's also a counselor that's joining us in this picture here. And this is during the Freeman ceremony. So Steve, if you want to go to the next photo. That's the whole group. We had a full contingent from Lake Havasu that was there. So I had some of my family members and other members of the community that joined us. And that's in the hall. This is Guild Hall, is where we're at for this ceremony. And then they take you around this table and they go through and explain all of the heritage of the program. It's a lot of pomp and circumstance, but I wouldn't have expected anything different from the City of London. If you want to go to the next photo, Steve. So that's inside Guildhall. I just wanted to share that with you because isn't that amazing? So yeah, it's so amazing. That's they were preparing right there for a 550-person banquet that was going to be right after the end of our ceremony. But I couldn't help but sneak in that room and take a photo. So now that I'm back home on U.S. soil, I can say I snuck in. But then I was trying to not get caught taking the photo. And then Steve, if you want to move to the next one. All right. So this is the Tower Bridge at night. And so what we were, one of the things that we were doing is Michael McCulloch, again, Mr. McCulloch's grandson, was dispelling the myth that his grandfather purchased the wrong bridge. And so his grandfather knew exactly what he was purchasing. He was purchasing the bridge that we now have going across the Bridgewater Channel. However, when the story broke about the Tower Bridge and the mishap, potentially, that Mr. McCulloch bought the wrong bridge, Mr. McCulloch said, I'm going to let that story go because you can't pay for that kind of media. And so the entrepreneur and businessman that he is, he kept that story going all these years until just our trip a couple of weeks ago when Michael McCulloch set the record straight that his grandfather absolutely knew what bridge that he was buying. And we had the opportunity to go on a tour of the Tower Bridge. It's now actually a tourist attraction. The Tower Bridge. So up at the very top, you can go through, walk, and there's also a glass bottom. So you can see down the bottom of the bridge. Right to, the way I'm looking at this picture, right to the left of it is actually the London Bridge. That's the bridge that replaced our bridge that we purchased. It's a very utilitarian bridge. If you get a chance, I'd recommend Google it. It was shocking to me. So the Tower Bridge actually opens up, but I actually don't know why it needs to open up because it's like maybe 50 yards to the London Bridge that doesn't open up. So you like literally open that up, you take your ship through, and then you're stuck again. So what they tell me is that they have folks go through, and most of the times that the bridge is open, for the majority, are for tourist boats, like dinner boats and those types of things that go along the River Thames. So thank you for indulging me. I wanted to share a little bit of London with you and kind of what the experience was. We had one full day of our friendship, and I had a few days that I was able to go explore London, which is a really amazing city. My biggest takeaway on London would be that they took old architecture. When I say old, like I'm talking like old, like it was unbelievable, like hundreds of years old architecture. And then they put modern architecture right next to it. And it looks like it just makes sense. It's really quite fascinating. So, but it was a great thing. It was an honor to be able to be, awarded the, Freedom of the City. It was an honor to be able to extend our hand of friendship from Lake Havasu City to the City of London and continue that relationship, and help further the bond on the educational, opportunities that we'll be able to share as a community. Yeah. Oh, and Donna McCoy, who also went, she went, and her husband Kim went with Mayor Nexon's contingent several years ago. She mentioned, don't forget about Harrods, which is a store. If you have not heard about it, it's overwhelming. I went into it because they say you have to, and I'm not really a shopper by nature, so I'm completely overwhelmed. And I get into it, and I go to the men's section, and they have everything in the store separated by designer, which I don't know that. I just know if I need a pair of pants, I need the pants section. And so they're like, oh, go to this area and go this area, turn left here and go to the red carpet. I'm like, I'm going to do a few steps here and I'm going to find that escalator and head out. But it is a very famous department store. And if you are a shopper, it's a shopper's delight, I guess. All right. Well, so now we'll move on to the regular program and we'll give you updates on what's happening in Lake Havasu City. Yeah, so the question was, did I go to a pub and invite on a pint? I did, because you have to. And they don't use CO2 for their draft beer. They actually they pump the beer out of it. So very interesting. The fish and chips really is quite amazing, except there is skin on the fish underneath the batter. So watch yourself, because that's tricky, right? You can make your way through it, but I did, but I learned the hard way. So that's a good tip. So, all right, we'll talk about some road construction. We have lots of road construction going on. And if you are in the downtown area, we've been talking about this for several months. And you may have driven the road in the morning to go somewhere, and by the evening it's closed or vice versa. So lots of things are happening down in that area. Most recently, this past week, the London Bridge deck and the approaches on coming on and off of the bridge have been done. There's still some follow-up work that will be going down in that area. We still have Capri to do. They're wrapping up on the striping. So the striping is kind of a nightmare down in that area right now. There's just little guides, but striping will be coming down. So lots of stuff that are happening there. But again, the work will be done by mid-December. Is there anything else there, Jess?
Yeah, just we initially were trying to do the pavement preservation, the seal coat. It's an HA5 is what the product is, and we're gonna have to delay that until April. So we went from several weeks of too warm, and then we've dipped down to some really cool weather. And the temperatures aren't going to allow us to put that down just yet. But we'll come back in April and then put one more seal coat on top of everything. And so that got delayed a little bit. But yeah, we'll be done by early part of December. Some utilities are taking a little longer on Riviera, but we'll get that cleaned up and won't be long. Give us about a month, and we'll be sitting pretty with new roads in that area. And they just started this week with resurface of the London Bridge deck. So that's going very well as well.
And that's actually the reason why we haven't striped the roads is we thought we were going to be able to do the HA5, but now that we can't, so now we're going to go back and stripe it. We don't want to stripe it, throw the HA5 and have to restripe it all in the same couple of week span. So we'll get those stripes down, and then, as Jess said, we'll come back in April. And
you're seeing some brand new crosswalk paint on McCulloch, which looks really good. So there's like bits of glass, essentially that's within the paint. So it gives that a little bit more of a sparkle, if you will, and kind of highlights the crosswalks in that area, promoting for pedestrian safety. So it looks really sharp. They're doing a good job.
Excellent. And then we also have a signal light going in at McCulloch and Jamaica. We've talked about this in the past, but every time we get there, it's like a false start. So we're getting closer and closer. But the city council took action at our last meeting and had to allocate some additional monies to this. The money is coming from our highway safety fund, which is grant funds from the federal government, which complicates things just a little bit. A couple extra steps you have to take, a couple of other areas that you have to overcome. And in this area, we had to overcome a budget deficit. So we took the engineer's estimate. That's what we allocated for it. And then ADOT is actually the one that is administering the bid process. When the bids came back, it was more money. And the contract, in order for the grants, says that the city would be responsible for that. So either would get rid of the project altogether, or we would have to pay the additional money, which is what the council allocated at our last meeting to be able to move forward. So it costs overall the taxpayers more money, but from our local funds, it still is saving us some money. I know it's an awkward way of doing it, but the way that the grant funding works, in order for us to get this project done under these terms, we had really no option. And that intersection at Jamaica and McCulloch is very, very busy. It's a feeder for the whole eastern end of our community. It's also a feeder for 2 elementary schools and possibly the high school and the middle school, depending on the way you're traveling across that intersection. And it has had some safety issues. So we'll be able to get that project moving forward with the additional allocation that council did last month. Last meeting. But again, we've talked about this several times, and people go to that intersection like, why is nothing happening? Why is nothing happening? Some of these were the things that were happening behind the scenes that we were able to figure out and now find a solution to be able to move forward.
We like to pursue those outside dollars, right? And bring them back into Havasu with the great efforts that took place with our MPO. And so we're able to bring some dollars into Havasu for that stoplight. But along comes federal funding that flows through the state. There's federal rules that take place. Like you indicated, Mayor, ADOT is the one that did the bidding and put out the bid documents. So kind of out of our control a little bit. So we love to bring outside dollars in, but it comes with rules and it comes with strings attached. But we're making it happen. And at the end of the day, the stoplight will be constructed, be put into place, and no one's going to care how it got there, but they're just happy that it is there. Mm-hmm.
We also have been doing some technology upgrades, mostly in our building area, but Maint Star, which is the software platform that we are now using, is now going to automate and make it much, much simpler for our local businesses, the contractors, our residents, for an efficient way to manage the permits. So building permits that they're doing, they can do some online stuff. Our inspectors can go do an inspection on site and use a tablet and be able to give the general contractor the report back on what that is. All of it updates the system right away. We'll also be able to manage our applications, any renewals for our business licenses, and also our special event permits go through this process as well. So we were going from what we would call a green screen, so the real old DOS type system. It was one of the last ones we had here.
Yeah, black screen with the green letters, and you had to hit F7, F4, or whatever it is to get through the screens to get to the next screen. The city was still using that until we implemented this system. So.
Yeah, so this new system, of course, any software, especially going from a green screen type software platform to today's technology, of course, is going to have a couple of hiccups. But overall, our team managed so well. We had a few delays for a couple of days on getting permits, but it was so insignificant compared to what we've been using for all of these years. But we're really excited to be able to have these types of technology platforms to help be more efficient for our citizens and our residents that we're serving, as well as historical records and data for the city so that we can readily answer questions that may come up. You may own the property today, but then you sell it tomorrow and then you sell it, that person sells it the next day. We need to keep track of all of that. The current owner only knows about their portion of it. But when you come back and say, how come this deck was built or I have an unpermitted structure that needs to be permitted, we need to know what and how and all of those things so that we can help those citizens navigate whatever it is that they're going through. And so this software platform will allow us, and Jeff Tuneman and his team in development services did a great job implementing it. And then the other segments that have gone on to bring on the other modules, if you will, for special events. Jerry and her team have been doing a great job bringing that up to speed. So lots of things and go into place, as you can imagine, anytime you have new software. So we appreciate everyone's patience that may have been impacted by that. Most of the impact happened in July and August, but I haven't heard anything recently with that implementation.
No, it's with Mainstar. Yeah, it's going great. Like you indicated, imagine the amount of the volume of historical records when it comes to building permits and construction activity in Havasu over the last several decades. So to take all of that information from the old system and get into the new system in a way that can easily be accessed and shared with the public when needed. I mean that was a huge effort. Jeff Tuneman, Development Services Director, Jeanette Nutt, worked tirelessly to get that completed. But in the end, we talk about the permitting side of things. We're still going to be taking the old way. If some of our contractors and in the community need some time to get up to speed with the new process, then I'll still allowing to take in some of those paper plans and those types of things as well too. So we'll get all that going. And then on the code enforcement, there's a code enforcement module that's on there as well too. So you can log in. Look, if there's a complaint or something that you need to register for code enforcement, you can do that, and then you can kind of watch the flow of everything that's happening there as well too. So hoping for good things to come out of it, and can't wait to hear some feedback and from the community and from the contractors in the community.
We also recently had a rezone request that came through for the city council. It was over on Highway 95 in Kiowa. We call it Kiowa Ponds. It's a big parcel of land that the city owned for many years. We received it through originally MCO Properties, Mr. McCulloch's properties. It was called Kiowa Ponds because it was the discharge area for Mr. McCulloch's factory. And so this was the area at Kiowa and Highway 95. We've had monitoring wells on it for many, many years. We've been working with the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, ADEQ, to remediate any of the concerns with that land. It has a clean bill of health. There's still some monitoring wells just because that's part of the process with ADEQ. And so we had an applicant come to the city in February looking to purchase that property, which that's the process. Any public property, somebody can come through, petition the city. It goes to an auction at that point, and then the highest bidder is considered for the purchase. In this case, it was the subsidiary of Anderson Automotive Group, and they are planning to build Anderson Motorsports in this area. So it's going to be a really beautiful facility. They'll do sales and service of off-road recreational vehicles and watercraft. They'll combine different locations they have within our community, and then they'll also have a full service area as well. The zoning that was on this property before was for a very specific multinational retailer. So it was very specific in how it could be. So that's why you had to have a rezone request come back to the city. Based on the application, based on the Planning and Zoning Commission's review of it, and then the presentation given to City Council, it's my opinion that this will have less impact to the neighborhood. Now, I know that's easy for me to say because I don't live in that neighborhood, but the neighbors don't feel the same way. So they do feel that having this facility in their area is a hindrance to what it is that they want to do, which we recognize. But we try to find the balance. And so we think that the balance has been found with really large buffers, so up to 80 feet of buffers using walls and landscaping to help offset and protect the neighborhood, which also will have some added benefits to these neighborhoods because they'll have sound buffers as well. So they currently would hear the traffic on Highway 95, which now will be minimized with some of this stuff that they're going to be doing at this area. But the rezone request came to City Council with a 7-0 recommendation for approval from our Planning and Zoning Commission. And then it was approved 7-0 from the City Council to be able to move forward on this area. Some of the additional concerns that are more community-wide were the ingress and egress to the facility. People had concerns with, someone making a right or a left into the facility off of Highway 95, that close to the stoplight at Kiowa and that close to the stoplight at Tacoma. And there's some minimization that will have some bump out turn lanes and some of those things that will be determined through the design review process. So all of those things will happen. ADOT, Arizona Department of Transportation, was involved in the application and had no reason for concern on that as long as through design review, all of those additional things are addressed. So I don't know if you have any other comments on the Kiowa Ponds rezone?
No, it's still a long process. Originally city owned. That's that property that sits obviously off of Kiowa and 95, or just off of that side. Going back to the McCulloch days and what occurred back in some of the early manufacturing that took place in Lake Havasu City. There was some contamination that took place underground with the disposal of the byproducts of the manufacturing process. So the city has invested lots of money working with ADEQ, Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, and bringing that land to the condition that it could be used in the way that it will be used here very, very shortly. So a large investment from the city through an auction process, and now we'll see the fruits of that labor.
The next thing we want to talk about is the Downtown Catalyst project. If you've been in our downtown area recently or on McCulloch, or maybe you were at Fright Night last night, you'll see some things that have been erected in the air down in that Downtown Catalyst. This is the area on McCulloch and Quarrio in the center of our downtown area. The Catalyst project, hopefully this will be one of the last few times I'll use Catalyst, because we have a naming contest that actually ends today. So if you want to be part of the naming process for what this new community downtown area is going to be called, other than the Downtown Catalyst, please go to our city website at lhcaz.gov today, because today's the last day. It's been going on for the last, I think, 30 or 45 days.
Well, 45 days, yeah.
For folks to participate in the naming contest. We've had some really great names come forward. So they will be all narrowed down, and then we'll go through some other survey process where then the narrowed down names will go out to the public and people will vote on them and or rate them on some online forum or some system to figure out what the final name would be.
The concept now is to take narrow it down to 3 names and then let the community vote, and what that looks like in terms of the new name for that property in the downtown. So probably see that coming up in the next 30 days. There'll be take a look for that and cast your vote for what we think should be called.
So that means you're going to hear me say Downtown Catalyst for another 30 days at least. So, but we've been talking about it for 7 years. So, what this area is going to be is it came through the America's Best Community process. Lake Havasu City came out of that process as a $1 million grand prize winner. We then have additional grants that we were able to find for this area. So, over 93% of the entire work that's being done in the Downtown Catalyst project is done either through our ABC winnings, our America's Best Community winnings, or grant funds. Only about 7% is local dollars that we'll be using. We'll also be working in partnership with other organizations, similar to how a lot of our other parks have developed over the years. When Rotary Park first opened, it didn't look like it does today, but through partnerships with local service clubs and groups, we've been able to enhance it with exercise areas, with swing sets, with the skate park, with lots of different amenities that then make Rotary what it is today. Similar with London Bridge Beach. It didn't open with a dog park and with a community stage and with the 9/11 memorial area, but through partnerships, it's evolved into those types of things. That story is replicated at every single park we have in Lake Havasu, whether it's Jack Hardy Park, Realtor Park, or Sarah Park. Every single park started out as something and grew into what it is today, and is not done even yet. So we might still have citizens come forward and say, we want to do these things too, and we will enhance those parks that way. This will be the same area, but as envisioned back in those days, is it would be a community gathering center where people can come down and enjoy the downtown, possibly gather and meet, have events, have pop-up events, have things that we were at that time closing the street for. We used to close the street a lot more than we do now, but as the community's grown, it's obviously not feasible to close down the roads we have, but we still have to on some of the larger events, but it will allow us to use this as a more robust event space. It's shocking because it was used as an event space, and we had lots of vendor fairs, and we had craft fairs, and we had art fairs, and all of those things. All of those things will still happen. They'll just happen in the new space. But it was 880 dump truck loads of dirt were removed. Yeah. So we talk about it and you drive by and you would have thought it was a pretty flat space, but it was actually pretty difficult for wheelchairs or walkers or strollers to get through because you had to go up kind of a fairly steep entrance, if you will. And then it kind of has still a slope to it, but it puts it in real perspective. At least it did for me when I heard 880 dump truck loads of dirt were removed from that area just to make it flat. So it'll be much easier for these vendor fairs and festivals and all of those types of things to occur. The construction will be done by late spring of 2025 and ready to be used. We have worked with the event promoters that use that area for some of our larger spring events. They're aware, and we've worked some accommodations for them to be able to still work. That's like Winterfest, Desert Storm, some of those large areas that we're using that area. But we're really excited to be able to get this forward. If you want to see what the park looks like, again, we've been talking about it for 7 or 8 years. So if it's new to you and you feel like we're moving through this quickly, just know we're coming from the perspective of we've talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. Doesn't mean we won't continue to talk. So if you have questions, let us know. But you can go to our website and you can see renderings of what it looks like. And it was brought together through community engagement and community processes. I think that we had 30 plus public hearings and community outreaches for this potential
on the
project.
Parks and Recreation Board alone, we had as a standing agenda item for the last 2+ years. So, and then reached out and talked to the downtown business owners, had open forum with residents and so forth. And like you said, that area will continue to evolve. So we want to continue to hear from our residents and the users of that space to see what comes next. Mm-hmm.
We'll transition down to e-bikes because that's coming forward. We talked about this a couple of months ago, or maybe even last month. We've been getting a lot of feedback from citizens about e-bikes and bicycles throughout our community on a variety of fronts. So one, on our roadways, how the e-bikes are being used on our roadways, and then also on our recreational trails and pathways. And so we're trying to find a happy medium where we can have an educated public on both sides of the equation about what this means. And so when we talk about e-bikes, these are electronic bikes that move very, very, very quickly. And state law has not kept up with technology. And so the way that some of these e-bikes are defined they're defined as motorbikes based on state statute, and they're riding them on sidewalks. Or you might be next to someone that's taking a walk, a recreational walk, and you have someone come by 35 miles an hour on an e-bike. It just creates for a potentially dangerous situation and a lot of angst for citizens, again, on both sides. We even heard at this coffee the first time we presented this idea, opposing views on what it was. So we're trying to find that balance. The reason we bring it forward today is it's going to be coming to City Council. Is it on the 12th?
It'll be on the 12th, November 12th, our next council meeting.
Yeah, so our next council meeting will be the first introduction of the feedback that we've received from citizens. Chief Sterling from our police department and his team have been working on how we can do these things and how do we find that balance and how can we educate the public in the best way. And so, a lot of times the conversation goes to, well, how are we going to enforce this, or how are we going to be able to manage through some of those things, which are real. We have to figure that out. But every day there's laws throughout our city and our state and our country that people are breaking every single day. And so, enforcement, it has to be, an educated public has to be a component of that so that people know. I don't believe people are out there willingly wanting to try and break the rules or the law, but if they just don't know. So how do we educate that? I happen to live by the high school. So every morning I am heading down, and as I have e-bikes coming at me from every direction, coming with me on traffic, going against traffic, going across the roads. I mean, every which way is happening. They're just trying to get to school. They're not trying to do anything wrong, but there is a way that if we can educate our youth on proper use, we can make sure that everyone's safer. Surprisingly, when you talk to the principal at the high school or even the middle school, when I went to the high school, the center area by the cafeteria was where we ate. So we had inside eating and then we had outside eating. Now it's pretty much an e-bike storage area. So, and they still don't have enough space. So, I mean, that just tells you in 25 years how much things can change over a period. So, if you feel strongly about either side of this equation, let us know kind of what we're looking at as a starting point. Because again, the city council hasn't weighed in on this at all. So this will be the first meeting of the council to have discussion, but just kind of a starting, like a conversation starter, looking to have restrictions on bicycles in the channel area. So that'd be from like the London Bridge through Rotary Park, and then also on the island walking path. Bicycles, pedal bikes, is that what we call them, or human-powered bikes?
Human-powered bikes or non-human-powered bikes. There's so many different categories of electric bikes out there that we had to distinguish it between human-powered and non-human-powered.
Yeah, so human-powered bikes have been on the island walking path for years. And so if you are a user of that area, bicycles go one way, walkers and runners go another way, so that to create a safety opportunity. So that's kind of the big areas. So education, and then those areas that have really small sidewalks and lots of people. So from the bridge to Rotary Park is a very popular place year-round, whether it's recreational users, boaters, or a combination of both going in that area. It really just compounds that whole thing. So we think we'll start there, education, and then we'll see what the rest of the community has to say about it as well. So if there's feedback that any of you have, let us know. Of course, City Council will have opportunities to have discussions with that as well, and then we'll go from there. And hopefully, we'll be able to find that balance where people are using them. The only reason e-bikes are so popular is because people like them. So we have to find a way for them to be able to still use their bike. They like them, and that's okay. But how do we make sure everyone's safe doing what it is they're doing? So
we talk about, that ordinance appearing on the November 12th council agenda. That's as all of our ordinances and all of our changes to the city code. That's the introduction. So it'll be introduced. We'll have a conversation, and then we'll come back at the following meeting on November 26th and have a conversation at that meeting in terms of final adoption based on feedback from the community and council discussion that takes place at that time. One other of note as we kind of look at like the logistics of the ordinance. If you look within our existing city code right now, there is language in there that talks about like motorized skateboards and whatever the technology was about 20 years ago when some of that was introduced. And within the code itself, it talks about on a coma from this intersection to this point, you can't use them, and from this location, from that location, you can use them. It's I understand the intent of what was trying to take place there, but how we capture within code probably isn't the best way to do that, because who drives a motorized skateboard that reads the city code to understand exactly where to drive these things, right? And that's from a user perspective as well as from an officer perspective, is to try to distinguish locations on where it's safe to use existing code, motorized skateboards, or now moving forward, non-human powered bicycles. So I think the code, as we will address it from a logistic standpoint, which Chief Sterling is bringing forward, is we'll place it based on signage in the community. So, and we'll have a robust conversation of what that looks like too in terms of location. But there should be a sign that indicates from here to here they're not allowed, right? And whatever that looks like. So as opposed to written word within the city code itself too. So just some of the things is we go through trying to distinguish between different levels of e-bikes. You know, some are max speed of 7 miles per hour. Some are max speed of 30 plus, right? And then so how do you indicate distinguish between those, and then trying to make the rules clear to the public and to the users, and then allowing our officers to better understand what the rules are and help enforce those rules. Our kudos to our police department, our officers, Chief Sterling. We're working with the school district in the high school and on educational pieces. So some of that is just like, did you know? So here's some of the impacts that take place when you're using an electric bike improperly. And then we also have a video that'll be coming out here shortly where we go through a little education piece that's out there too. So we're not trying to come in and be, the city and put a fist down and say, stop this. We're just trying to find, as you indicated, Mayor, some middle ground, some balance. So people enjoy electric bikes within the community, and we want to make sure that that continues. A lot of our kids rely on getting to school by use of electric bikes, and we want that to continue. But we also want to make sure that they're not impacting the pedestrians and walkers on walking trails and other areas to the degree that maybe there's some safety issues that come about. So much discussion, as you can tell, will take place at the next council meeting.
Interestingly enough, the code as it stands today was crafted by the users of that time. So the youth of that time, that generation now just has grown up, and then the technology has changed on top of that. And the video that Jess has mentioned actually has 2 youth that are going to be featured in it that reached out to my office with concerns of their own. So they want e-bikes, but they've been concerned on how some of their friends are using the e-bikes and how unsafe it has been. And there was one accident of a youth heading to the high school this fall, or I guess we're in fall, so I guess this summer, like right when school first started, and they had reached out, and so they're going to be featured in the video to help through the educational program. So we'd like to engage users of all ages and participate in this conversation. Mm-hmm. We'll talk a little bit about another item that the council had addressed, which was our airport board. So the city has several boards, committees, and commissions that are in our code. Because they're in our code, they are very stiff, the meetings are. So they're just like our council meetings. You have to follow the rules of our code, which are no open meeting violations. So you can't talk to other commission or board members about any of the topics. You have to only talk about things that are on the agenda. You have to stay very narrowly focused on whatever the topic is. So it doesn't always allow a good free flow of community information. And these boards, committees, and commissions are very specialized for whatever they are. So airport, especially, is aviation enthusiasts. And that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. There's people that have Cessnas, to people that have jets, to people that just have experimental aircraft that are flying above. I mean, they're all across the gamut, and they all have something to contribute. And so when you're having a conversation and you attend like a public meeting that you think you're talking about the airport, and you're like, well, I know something about this, but it doesn't fit that narrow scope. It sometimes shuts down the conversation or doesn't really allow for that free flow. So we looked at a variety of different things, and General Kane, who is our airport manager, he has been with us for about a year, has been very successful, obviously, in his career, making it to the ranks of a general, to engage conversation and engage folks. And so he came forward to the city council and gave an update on what's happening at the airport. That was in September. As part of that, he talked about the communication strategy. And our airport advisory board had not met in 18 months because there wasn't anything for them to advise the city council on. So it's kind of this interesting thing where the code reads that the airport advisory advises council on matters of aviation or airport, and we had no need for that as the city council. But the airport manager, Mr. Kane, he has a need to engage with those users and make sure that their needs are being met with whatever that might be, or get the expertise that they have. They have amazing expertise. In our last round of interviews for folks that were interested in serving on that board, we had people that had been pilots in the commercial sector for 35 years, to folks that have managed airports in the past. I mean, just really amazing people. So how do we harness all of that and allow that to actually be a free flow of conversation? So we did that, and what ended up happening is we got rid of the airport advisory. So we repealed that section of the code. So there's no more in the code an airport advisory board, but instead there's now going to be a variety of communication strategies that the airport manager is going to put in place to engage the public in general. So all of us that might just have an interest or want to add to the conversation, plus those that are have more in-depth knowledge or information on the topic, with a variety of airport talks, one-on-one office time, office hours where people can just come in and have a cup of coffee or just share their viewpoint. So a variety of communication strategies, and we'll see how that works. And if it works great, then maybe we can look at it for other boards, committees, and commissions if they're being harnessed the same way. Or if it's not working so great, maybe we to talk about code language to put in another iteration of the board in a place for the airport advisories. So really, at the end of the day, the goal is how do we communicate and get feedback and engagement from the most number of users and or citizens on all fronts within Lake Havasu City. And so one of our areas in our survey, we do a community survey every 2 years, and we benchmark against our prior survey to see where we're at. And one of our areas of I would say concern is community engagement and communication. So it comes up over and over again. And interestingly enough, in my business career, that's the same one that comes up over and over again is communication. And I'm like, I'm so available. We're here. What can we do? But we have to create an avenue and meet people where they're at and when they're there. And so, when someone has that thought or whatever that may be, we need to be there, whether that's through electronic means, one-on-one, forums like this, social media, whatever it is, we have to figure that out. And so we're doing that. Jerry Bracamani was promoted to our community engagement officer. So she's working on those efforts to ensure that we have more opportunities, again, to get citizens involved when they want, how they want, and to provide whatever information it is they want to us, and that we can have that conversation. Now, it's important to note when we have conversation and we have discussions, just because what you're asking doesn't happen doesn't mean we're not listening or that it's not a valid concern. We're talking about 60,000 people, as the paper reported this morning, in our community. And so we have to look at the good of the whole, but everyone's voice within that 60,000 is very important. But just because maybe a pathway isn't moved forward that you think should be, doesn't mean we're not listening. It just might mean that you might have that opinion alone, and that's okay. But we start those conversations, and some conversations were started years ago, and I happen, something might be moving in the front today. So seeds are always planted when it comes to that environment. But really, at the end of the day, the goal is just more communication and more opportunities for that. We also are working on the early stages of Parks and Recreation Master Plan. So I believe we've already reported that Gabby Vera has been hired as our new Parks and Rec director. She comes with a lot of energy and a lot of experience and a lot of excitement, and we're excited to have her. But as one of her first areas is obviously, how do we have a master plan, or how do we have a vision for what our Parks and Recreation should look like? And we've had iterations of this over the years, but we want something more cohesive. And especially as we're growing and we have citizens that have different pathways that they want to do, how do we make sure that those things can happen? And how do we make sure that those things are sustainable? And so we will go through and embark in our next fiscal year a process of Parks and Recreation Master Plan that will identify all of those things, have lots of community engagement on what we would like to see, how we'd like to see it, and be able to put together that plan. We have similar master plans for pretty much everything else: airport, roads,
water, wastewater,
sewer. Yeah, I mean, all of these things. So we have them. Why not for the main recreational area or recreational opportunities that our citizens enjoy?
Just talked about communication and community engagement. So that Parks Master Plan allows us as a city to reach out to all of our users of our park system and our programming, and try to create based on all that feedback, all that input as a community. What do we want our parks to look like today? What do we want them to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 plus years down the road? So that's the conversation that'll take place through that master plan. So it sounds a little bit like formal in terms of we're going to do a master plan. What does that mean? It means we're going to engage with the public and try to get a better idea of our existing sentiment when it comes to our systems and in the future of our systems. So we had a very robust Parks and Recreation board meeting this week where we had this room was filled with some really good folks out there that are part of the Little League and baseball and swim team, and obviously the soccer community was there as well. And they're all coming saying, "Hey, we want more fields. We want more opportunity for our kids. We want to put our kids, our young athletes in a position to succeed and have fun and enjoy themselves in Lake Havasu City." So, how do we do that? And so there's a lot of conversations that take place there. So we don't have a lot of land in Lake Havasu, and that's really a challenge. So from an economic development perspective, when people say we want this retailer or this to come to the city, we don't have a lot of space, and the space we do have because of that is high priced and highly valued. Also, from a city perspective, what does that look like for future fields if we did that? So we've embarked on some really positive initial conversations with the school district, and they have lots of grass, and the city's willing to come in and spend some money through the Parks and Recreation Department and spend some money on improving those areas. Whether they need to be, some have like holes, or maybe it's not leveled to the degree. We'll come in and we'll go and address that. Then we're going to want to get to lighting, and we're going to get all these things that the evolution of these things that take place. So we're going to working with the school district on putting a plan together from that perspective, and then long term, what does that look like? So start looking at areas around the community where you talk about like field space. There's a nice area. I think it's nice. The feedback I received from the different sport associations within the community kind of frown on it, but we have some space out by the airport that's out there. That's city owned. It's in a floodplain area, so it's perfect for fields and less perfect for facilities or public or private. But it's out by the airport, and it's on the north side of town, and it's it's on the way to the landfill, and that doesn't sound too great to most people that are out there. There's swim space over at Sarah Park, across from McCulloch and the dog park, but running some similar issues we did in the past, where there's so many millions of dollars that would need to be invested into just flattening and grading and leveling that area. Remember years ago, about 10 years ago, there was conversations taking place at the city where the project over at Sarah Park, it was going to be a $25 million project to bring in some fields up in Sarah Park. And then when the bid document showed that it would take about $12 million just in dirt work, just to flatten the area to the point where we could start building some fields on top of that. That's a lot of money. And so we're open to ideas and what that looks like. That master plan will help us with some of that. And some relationships and partnerships with the school district should help with that as well too. So
yeah, the master plan will look at existing facilities and maintenance and upkeep and what that's going to look like, as well as future development as we have growth. So it's a two-pronged approach to make sure that we have the tools necessary to make sure that we're keeping up with what we have, and then also keeping up with the needs that we're going to have in the future. The challenge is from like a parent's perspective is, or even a recreational user's perspective. So either of those, that if you start the conversation now about something, I can use pickleball on one example. Pickleball wasn't even a thing, 10 years ago, but then it became like the most popular thing. And so how do you upkeep and make sure that happens, that you have enough facilities to take care of our pickleball families? Then when it comes to like our parents that have youth, your youth are only in certain segments of that for 3 or 4 years. So for a city to build a field section, I don't want to use the word complex, but like a field area, it's going to take 3 or 4 years if we started the conversation just today to get through the public process, the budget process, procurement, awarding the bid. all of those things, that youth is going to age out of it. And so with this master plan, we can hopefully ensure that that doesn't happen to families going forward. But I was involved in the Cypress development when we did Cypress Park. That was for the soccer community. The parents that started that process with us, their kids aged out before Cypress opened. And those families had told us that Cypress would be enough to fulfill all of the soccer needs for us. Well, here we are today. It's not. It just isn't. And so, in that, not that they were wrong, they were talking about that time. And so that was 2014, when those conversations started.
The Lions Soccer League. That's at 1,200 kids that are in that soccer league. That's a lot of kids. That's a lot of games. That's a lot of little feet that are going back and forth over the grass on our soccer fields, which are Cypress, and then the field over at ASU.
Yes.
And those conversations about ASU have been swirling the last couple of weeks as well too, right? So, but we have about 1,200 kids in the community that participate in the soccer league.
Yeah, so the master plan will help us address all of those types of things going forward, so that doesn't happen to people going forward. So we'll have more of a cohesive plan when it comes to that front. We have another item that will be coming before the City Council on the 12th is downtown parking. We mentioned it real briefly last coffee that we had, but we've been working with the Downtown Merchants Association, the downtown business owners, also some property owners in the downtown area as well. And some have concerns with parking and others don't have concerns with parking. But nonetheless, we want to have some sort of a cohesive plan for parking in that area. And we had a more in-depth conversation about parking in common and what that means. It was a McCulloch era parking plan that allowed folks to build a building without meeting the parking requirements, as long as all of the neighboring areas shared their parking. So you own your land, and whatever parking spots you have to maintain those spots in that parking lot, but others in that neighborhood get to use it as well. What the exchange for that is you don't have to build as much parking as a normal restaurant, bar, retail, hair salon, those types of things, because you're going to share that parking. In concept, it works really fantastic if everything's developed and there's parking lots behind all of the buildings, but there isn't in our case. So down on McCulloch, you have some empty lots that don't have cohesiveness then of the parking area. You also have parking lots that you go down one lane and the parking stalls are facing the opposite direction because that business owner painted it one way versus the property owner next door. And so we're trying to address all of those types of things. Really, the city's role in this whole thing is to be kind of a facilitator. So we don't own the property. The codes are met. They have the parking that's required through parking in common. But we are kind of an interested party that can help facilitate the conversation. So that's what we've done. We hosted a meeting at Nomadic, about probably 9 months ago now, of all of the downtown area to talk about what their concerns were. Some concerns, as I mentioned, was parking was not an issue, to that I need loading and unloading areas, to I need reserved spots for my employees that work late into the night, to we want 2-hour parking in certain areas so that we can have the turnover of cars in our area. I need a place to be able to have ADA accessible parking stalls. So lots of different conversations occurred throughout that whole process. And so we said, let's take some small hanging fruit. Let's see what can we help and how can we make this happen. So what we've come up with for the consideration of the city council is a sign program that if these businesses want, they can put up a sign that identifies that this is downtown customer parking. And so they can put those signs up at their expense in their area. And what the belief is that people that are using that parking for areas that are not downtown business shopping or business uses. So you're not going to your insurance company, you're not going to get your hair done, you're not going to buy stuff. Like some people are parking there and maybe walking to a condo complex 3 blocks down the road and living there. And so that's what the belief is. If that happens, we'll be able to have just people that are supposed to be in the downtown area parking in those areas. We also said, let's look and do a pilot program on 2-hour parking. Not all over the street. So we'll have a couple of different zones that have a couple of 2-hour parking spots in front of them, zones throughout the block, because the needs of the block are a little bit different when you're up towards Acoma than when you're down towards Smoke Tree. And so kind of zone that out and put a couple of 2-hour parking stalls on McCulloch there. And then we also talked about our special event process. Currently, if you're having a festival or a fair that we talked about in our downtown Catalyst area, or when the street's closed, the vendors come in and they put up their wares and their tents and their things, and then they go find the very nearest parking stall. And all of the parking is full before the actual citizens or customers come down to the area to enjoy their festival or fair. And so through that process to have off-site parking for those vendors. So those vendors come in, set up their stuff, do their thing, and then they go find a place to park that's not right there so that their citizens or shoppers or people that are going to be invited to that area can park. So we're taking a multi-pronged approach. This will be done by resolution for consideration of the council. Where on the 12th, we'll have a discussion. We'll run a pilot program by resolution because we're not changing code. We're just doing by resolution. We're going to try this pilot program for a year. If it works, then we'll come back to the city council for a code change or adjustments or whatever is necessary. Again, we're just being a facilitator. These are not our ideas at all. These are ideas from the downtown business owners and the merchants that are in this area that we're helping to help facilitate for them. So again, that'll be considered on the 12th of November. If you have comments, thoughts about that, we encourage you to join us on the 12th or let us know prior to the meeting. I don't know if there's anything else on that, Jess, on the pilot program for downtown.
No, a lot of work has gone into it, Mayor, by yourself and others in terms of collaboration, trying to strengthen the bond and the Downtown Merchants Association, and ask them what's it going to take to make you more successful. And they're coming to us with some different ideas, and this is a handful of those ideas that they're approaching us with. So it's a very positive interaction.
All right, we're getting close to where you can ask questions that you may have. But before we do that, we have a couple of updates for some events. So tomorrow, November 2nd, the Parks and Recreation Department invites the public to a free rock painting event at the Aquatic Center from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. They are going to paint rocks that will be displayed in a public decorative rock snake display at Sarah Park Trailhead. So the city of Needles, I had a resident reach out to me that is interested in creating a snake display with rocks that you can see from a high. And they're going to do it. They've worked with obviously Justice's office and Parks and Rec to be able to get the approvals necessary to do this. But anyone that wants to have a rock in the rock snake art exhibit should go to the Aquatic Center tomorrow and paint rocks from 9 to 11. And then if you want to then see your work put to work the following Saturday at 9 a.m., there'll be the ribbon cutting. And so you'll be able to see the rock snake display out in that area. So November 11th is coming up quick. That's Veterans Day. And we'll have our Veterans Day Day Parade on McCulloch. It begins at 9 o'clock this year. And then we'll have a special ceremony held at the VFW following the parade. So historically, we would have a celebration down at Wheeler Park for Veterans Day. It's going to be at the VFW. We're actually closing down London Bridge Road, and we'll be showcasing the display that the VFW has done on the back of their wall. It's a beautiful mural that they've done. And so we'll have it there, and the celebration actually will be on London Bridge Road with traffic cut off for that ceremony on the 11th. Our community dinner, which is our annual holiday dinner that we do at the Aquatic Center, is going to be on Friday, December 13th this year. So if you mark your calendars for that. And we also, the Aquatic Center pool will be closed from this 1st of December through December 15th for the routine cleaning and maintenance. It's our annual cleaning of the pool area. So December 1st through the 15th for our pool users. I think we covered all of our events. Last thing, Election Day is coming up. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, you can see that on TV, right? Yeah, so today, actually, November 1st is the last day for early voting. So if you're going to vote early, today's the last day. It's at the library off of McCulloch. It's from 10 to 4. The newspaper said today 10 to 7, but when I looked at the recorder, it is 7? 7. Okay, so it's 7 o'clock today at the library. It will be available for early voting. Then Election Day is on November 5th, so this coming Tuesday, and there are polling locations. You can go to the county recorder's office for the polling locations or refer to the information that was mailed to each voter for your polling location. But obviously, we encourage everyone to go out and vote and make sure that your voices are heard. Again, if you want to do early voting, it's today until 7 o'clock at the library. With that, we'll introduce our colleagues. We have Councilmember Nancy Campbell is joining us. Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. We have Councilmember-elect David Diaz is joining us. And then we have Councilmember David Lane for his very last coffee as a council member. Yeah. And so I asked Councilmember Lane, I'm going to put you on the spot. So I asked Councilmember Lane when we first got started how it got to be that he was the microphone handler at Coffee, because I actually forgot how he's been doing it for so long. I forgot how it was. And I even, through that conversation, I forgot we used to go places. So we used to go to like different businesses, and then we went to different government buildings. So he shared the story about how Coffee kind of started. So if you want to share that story with the group.
Yeah. I can tell you my story, how I got started. So it's actually a little over 9 years ago. And this had just started with then Mayor Nexon and the city manager at the time, Charlie Cassens. And they would start it, and they would set a microphone up right here. And they would travel around. And that was right around the time I decided that I wanted to run for city council. And they were having a meeting at the Red Onion. They used to have a little room in the back where our place is now. And I knew Sonny Borelli, our senator at that time, because his significant other used to work for me. And so I met him there, and he introduced me to the mayor and the city manager. That's how I got started with it. And at that time, we used to have a microphone. Donna was on the council at the time. You remember, we'd set a microphone up, and the people would come up to the microphone. But then a lot of the venues that we went to were not conducive to having a microphone set up. So then we started taking the microphone around, and I started doing it. And one of the reasons I did it is some of you have seen some very long-winded people that don't want to give the microphone up. And being a policeman, I had no problem just snatching it out of their hands. So. And then they quit coming. So it was a good thing.
You're going to scare them from asking questions now.
Yeah.
Now, so yeah, we'll get started with the questions. You always go first. I'll come to you second.
But as Dave finds the first person to ask a question, Dave, we appreciate you and thank you so much for your leadership over the last 8 years. We're going to miss you, and we're going to miss you being. Hopefully, you'll still come to the coffee next month. Yeah, well, we'll have to see how we have to regroup now. So.
I think Anthony should do it.
Yeah.
Good morning. As an avid driver, walker, and e-bike rider in the town, I look forward to the discussions. I'd like to say a few things because I know city councilmen are here. I'd like them to think about is the Class 2 e-bike limited to 20 miles an hour. You know, it's an established pattern. Basically, as I understand, state law says it can go anywhere a bicycle can go. I've walked the channel, and I've been just about, run down by regular bicycles just as much as e-bikes. So I think it's a mistake to separate human from non-human powered. I think that's a gross mistake. I think we have a problem in certain areas where it's a speed issue, where you have wheeled vehicles going too fast, where we have a lot of pedestrian traffic. I'm looking forward to hear what the police department say about other issues around town. But I want to be careful that we don't go too far out of the state law, but put the right limits on the right places in town. And what time is that meeting, Mr. Mayor?
It'll be council. So it'll 5:30. Yes, and it's not on the 12th. Is it the 12th? Or the
12th.
Oh, the 12th. Yeah. So the 12th meeting, that'll be Councilmember Lane's last full meeting. Will be on the 12th.
And if I can, into that conversation, because we talk about the logistics, right? It's taken us several months to try to define how we approach this and parse it out to a certain degree. And we talked about speed, right? So is it necessarily the size of the electric bike, or is it human powered versus non-human powered? Really, is it about speed? Because you can get pretty fast on a human powered bike. So, and then all those things, right? But it's so then if it's speed, do we have an officer sitting there with a radar gun on the island walking path? It's difficult. We need our officers. We don't have enough officers the way it is in terms of where we need them to be. And so we need them in the streets protecting us, right? So I'm just putting that out there, not because it's a conversation that needs to be had and ideas need to be generated. Speed's a difficult one, unless we can come up with a better idea in terms of enforcement. And there might be some really good ideas out there. So let's think about it, let's talk about it, and address it the best way we can.
I don't think that we're looking to do anything from to be radical from one to the other. We're looking for a small incremental change, and I think education is going to be the biggest component of any of this. And you know, we're willing to be able to work through to solve the problem. So it's not, we're not looking to do anything crazy. This isn't not even coming from us necessarily. It's coming from citizens that have reached out, including two youth that were featured in that video. I mean, this is just not. I'm everything that you are when it comes to recreation, except an e-bike user. So I'm a bicyclist, I'm a walker, a runner, all of those same things, but I don't have an e-bike. But they look kind of fun. Maybe one day I did rent one when I was on vacation recently, and it was it was a good time.
James Maniaci. I have a question concerning master planning. You're saying the Parks and Recreation Department and their board will be doing one. Will that be done in time before the 10-year general master plan revisions?
Yeah, great question. It actually probably will be in concert with it, based on the timing of it. So it just to correct that, it's not the Parks and Rec board or Parks and Rec that are going to be doing that. It's going to be the city doing it. So collectively, the city on a focus of Parks and Recreation, but it probably will be right in concert with the general plan.
Yeah, that'd be real close. So we've got two proposals for the general plan, reviewing those now and scoring those and bringing a contract to council here in the 60 to 90 days. And that process will be a good 18 months. Now, the park master plan isn't in the budget right now, but that'll be a conversation that's going to take place during budget time. And if the council chooses to support that effort, then that effort would be funded as of July 1st. So, and that parks master plan, there'll be some overlap there that takes place. Yes. So what's really important for us is that community engagement and putting all those things together in terms of feedback, input from the public, and then inventory of our existing. And what's really nice too is having that kind of that outside perspective as well too. So we want to get that inside perspective, but also looking at it from a different perspective as well too. So there'll be some overlap. There's a lot of things happening in terms of planning and process moving forward, and we want to make sure that whether they're happening at the exact same time or not, they all have to happen in concert. We can't have master plans that conflict each other or strategic plans from the city otherwise that would conflict each other. They have to be moving in unison and in concert moving forward.
Mayor, this is for you. In the past, we've been talking about a lot of vehicles in different homes that vehicles do not move. Is there any plans in your system that's going to go after these people that don't move their vehicles? They sit there forever. I have one vehicle that's been there for 10 years that has not moved. This is kind of thing that I'm concerned about. And I was wondering what you thought about this. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. Thanks, Dave. The council about a year ago updated the code enforcement or the codes for those types of things. So now vehicles have to be operable. They have to be movable, and they also have to be insured. And so that was a new and registered. Yes. And they have to be insured was the new component we added to it. So if you're willing to pay insurance for a vehicle that's sitting in your yard and not moving, you have to be pretty committed to that vehicle, either as a work vehicle or a car that somebody might be rebuilding, those types of things. We also added some restrictions about where you could do that. So it's 300 square feet of a backyard that has to be shielded in some way, whether that's a fence or some sort of other shielding. And so that was, as I talked about with the e-bikes, we kind of turned the dial just a little bit to see where it's at. Code enforcement for the majority is still reactive, so we respond when we get a complaint. There's several ways you can do a complaint. You can do it by calling into our office, going to our website, downloading the app from your app store of Havasu Now and doing it that way. And then as we mentioned earlier with our MaintStar system, code enforcement, we have a more robust tracking and management process for that as well going forward. I would be open to additional code changes, should that be the will of the community. So I serve the community as a whole, and I'm listening. And so I'm always listening to what's happening, whether it's public testimony at council meetings, forums like this, telephone calls, emails from people on what they feel about code enforcement. And so I will give a little perspective from some of my viewpoint, as I was involved during the 2016 master or general plan update. And during that, there was some language that was proposed in the code, or in the general plan from the community, input. And there was a TAC. There was a group of citizens that were involved in this. And then there was, the Planning and Zoning Commission. And somehow some language got in there that was going to restrict people from parking in their front yard. Like not on their cement driveway, but on their front yard. I have never seen the council chambers, well, actually one other time when Unisource was trying to raise the rates, but no other time have I seen the council chambers so busy with people so upset that we were going to restrict that ability. And so I have that frame of mind still. I have not seen the council chambers full like that since. With that many angry people. I wouldn't even say upset. They were angry, and they were yelling, and they were screaming, and they were upset. And so I have that perspective of knowing, okay, that was the last widespread community engagement effort to say, no way, we're not doing that. We want the freedom to use our property. Now, I recognize it's 2016. We've had growth, and we have other folks that are coming in saying, "Hey, don't really want that. I want to be able to have a free space in my area. I don't want to see what I perceive as your junk vehicle when that might not be a junk vehicle to the owner of it." And so we heard some noise, and that's why council considered and made those code changes with insurance. We talked to code enforcement and said, "Hey, what are your biggest issues? Like, what are the biggest issues you're getting from these complaints that you don't have the tools to resolve?" And that's what we resolved in December when we updated the code. So I'm open to it if the community is open to it. And I have not heard the volume raised loud enough yet where we would go to a proactive approach. We did hear the volume raise on a proactive approach when it came to campaign political signs. So we are reactive on that. We go out, or we're proactive, on that. We go out, and if you're in violation, we call the candidates, or we remove the sign, or we do what it is. And that is at the direction of the council. We put that into code. And I would be willing to consider additional code adjustments should that be the will of the community. Haven't heard it yet, but I'm listening. And so we'll make those changes if that is what the noise turns out to be.
Good morning, Mayor and Jess. Last night I went to McCulloch for Halloween with my grandson and my daughter and her fiance. It was great. I enjoyed walking up and down McCulloch. The street was in really good condition. I didn't fall. I really appreciate not falling. There was one slight issue that I noticed, again, as a pedestrian, because even during Winterfest last year, I believe I made mention of it. The fact that at the crosswalks and at this year, I was at McCulloch and Smoke Tree. The signal was flashing, and you have the barricade on Smoke Tree right there between the businesses right there. But Smoke Tree itself was open, and McCulloch was open up to that point. Well, there were hundreds of pedestrians trying to cross Smoke Tree and McCulloch, all in that area. And then there were cars also trying to cross. Cars were getting impatient. They were up in the pedestrians' butt as they were driving. And they just were not. The cars were not polite. But at the same time, the pedestrians, they have the right of way, right? They're in the crosswalk, and it's a four-way stop, so it's a stop sign. Cars have to wait for the pedestrians. But I would just, again, like to recommend, also it was really dark after sunset, completely dark. I would just like to recommend from now on, when you guys close McCulloch, just include that intersection too. Let them go all the way up through to Albertsons and to that building across from Albertsons. Let them use all that area, but not not that intersection. And it wasn't lit. I know there's some street sign lights, but it wasn't lit enough to, a lot of people were in black and it was difficult to see. As a pedestrian, I sat there and watched people being unsafe. So and Winterfest will be coming up. You're going to have that issue again.
Thank you.
This one's to the city manager. The question in regards, I just found out that November 12th, we're going to be discussing the e-bites. Have you checked into the Federal Transportation Act like this gentleman was talking about? It's not a state statute. It's a federal that bikes are excluded up to, I thought was 25 miles an hour to be able to drive on any roadways that, that are meant for vehicles. Skateboards back in the day, they are not, but the bicycles absolutely are protected in the Federal Transportation Act.
Yeah, certainly. So Chief Sterling and his team have been researching this, taking a look at every angle from a federal, state, local perspective for the last 6 months. We've been talking about it and reaching out to other cities in Arizona, across the country, to look at best practices and success stories and failures that are out there, to create some language that we can have a conversation with the community and a conversation with council. So everything that's contained within that draft ordinance, Councilmember Campbell, is legal, doable, and as long as that's the will of the people, as long as that's the will of the council.
I just wondered if there's any plans to put, I don't know what you guys call it, I call it an enhanced crosswalk warning. There is one on Acoma right across the street from the golf course, and I think that's to get the equipment across there. What I'm wondering is, are there any plans to put one where people come off the 18th green and cross Acoma? Because I almost got hit yesterday walking there. I thought this guy looked like he was going to slow down, and as we stepped out into the crosswalk, he sped up and went sailing by. So we all jumped back, and fortunately we weren't hit. Anyway, I don't know what you call them. I call it an enhanced crosswalk warning where you push the button and signs flash. If people are keeping up, every 6 minutes, there's a group crossing Acoma right there, and people are going through there 45, 50 miles an hour, and they don't care about us golfers. So it's a very dangerous area. I just wondered if there was any plans to add one.
I'm going to defer to the golfer on that one. I don't golf, so I don't use that intersection.
Or the wannabe, the hacker, not the golfer. But yeah, so we worked with the golf course several years ago, a handful of years ago, on that was that hole 7 that's along Acoma, and then pushing that crossing over to the 4-way stop that's located there, right? And then, but yeah, we'll engage the golf course, what that looks like in terms of hole 18 and crossing Acoma on that side. So you talk about an enhanced crosswalk. That's very important because the last thing we want to do is paint a crosswalk in the middle of a street without an intersection there, right? Councilmember David Lane will tell you that paint doesn't stop vehicles. And so that's a very important in terms of a safety measure that takes place. But yeah, we're aware of the situation. We've had conversations with the golf course and maybe their contribution towards that effort as well too. But it's important. There's those 2 major crossings right across Acoma, off of 7th and then after 18. So appreciate it. Thank you for bringing it up.
Are you crossing at the stop sign?
So after the seventh hole, you're crossing at the Daytona 4-way stop sign or 3-way stop sign.
Saratoga.
Saratoga. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, Saratoga. And then yeah, just trying to get the golf carts basically to flow smoothly with traffic, and we're trying to make sure the golf carts and the golfers are safe, and we want to make sure that the people in the vehicles are flowing at a safe speed as well too, and we don't want those two to connect. It's after the 18th hole when you're finished golfing, then you're coming on the south of the senior center essentially, and you're crossing at that area where there's no intersection or or no intersection available there. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I got you. Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, that's good clarification. We'll keep an eye on that and see what we can do there. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. All right, thank you. Yeah. All right, any other questions? All right, yeah, please.
I don't even know how to ask. I've never been to one of these. I just happened to click the button live at my house, and I saw that they want to take the bikes away from the channel and island. And I came here to save that because I'm a daily bike rider. And that's honestly the only place I feel safe to ride my bike, Sarah Park, the channel, and the island without getting hit by a car. So I'm also about to become a mother, and that's the only place that I've taken my nephew and my future kids to ride safely without feeling the need to get hit by a car. So I came to save that, and I want to learn more. So
awesome. Thank you. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming. And are you do you use e-bikes or do you use a regular bicycle? Okay. Yeah. So that's the conversation we're having right now. So on the 12th of November, which is Tuesday, not this coming Tuesday, the following Tuesday. So this Tuesday is important too because it's election day. So if you haven't voted, do that on the 5th. And then on the 12th will be our council meeting. That will be the first introduction. And so we would invite you at 5:30 to come and talk to the council about that for the consideration. Most of what we're talking about is on the e-bike side, is to find that balance from the e-bikes that are going quickly versus the other. But we've heard some great discussion this morning about some e-bikes might fall into that category too. So so that's what we're looking for. We're just trying to find the balance so everyone safely can use it. And then with a high concentration of education on more of our youth, so the youth that are using e-bikes to get to school and home, that they're doing it in a safe manner and not coming at us with opposing traffic and going with traffic, and that's just some education. So thank you for adding to the conversation, and welcome. Thank you. We do this the first Friday of every month. So yeah.
I just wanted to say real quick, along with that, I live right there by the high school too. Mm-hmm. And so I was going up Kiowa from the high school, and it was the kids getting out of school. And that little section there for a few blocks is 25, and then it goes to 35. And I was doing my 25 and an e-bike went flying past me and scared me. So I think the education is so important. But while you're doing that, if I could just suggest that we also remind people, especially on South Palo Verde, where they kind of naturally come down that hill by the high school fast, is that when it's posted 25, it's 25 even if there's no kids there. I have people, honking at me when I'm doing the 25 and they want to do the 35. Yeah. So I think, reiterating 25 means 25, no matter what time of day or what day of the week it is.
Yeah, no, thank you, Donna. It's funny because I live by the high school as Donna does, and when I'm heading up one day, I do the speed limit too because I don't want to get caught speeding. So I'm going the speed limit, and my sister's behind me. I'm not sure who it is, but they're on me hard, and I'm like, what is going on? And so I turn off to my house, and she keeps going up Palo Verde to get to Kiowa, and she's like, why are you going so slow? I'm like, you need to slow down. She's gonna hate that I'm sharing this story, but but she doesn't like that I go the speed limit, but yeah, I get that. Good point. Yeah, this will be our last question before we wrap up today.
On the November 12th meeting, when you're going to be discussing the bikes, is that a regularly agendized topic so everyone can speak, or are they going to have to wait till the very end of the meeting to address it?
Oh, no, it's on the item. It's on the agenda. So I think what you're saying, Emilio, is it an agenda public hearing? It's a public hearing that will be part of the agenda. At the end of every meeting that we have at the council, there's a call to the public where people can address the council on issues of concerns or thoughts that they may have, but it's not a two-way conversation. This will be a public hearing on our November 12th meeting. So,
and again, a continuation of on the 26th. We'll talk about on the 12th and again on the 26th.
Yeah, introduction on the 12th, and the 26th will be final. All right, as we always do, we'll end up with some fun facts. Before we do, because I forgot to do this last time, I do want to thank Steve in the control room that makes this happen for us. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
He also helped us with the pictures, but lots goes into a production like this to make sure that all of us here in the room can engage. But we also have lots of people online, as evidenced by you joining us this afternoon or this morning, that are watching it too. And so he makes sure everyone can hear and see and do. And then of course, Allie is with our office. Allie Blum makes sure that all of the stuff happens for us. And then Jerry Bracamani as well. So thank you so much for all of your efforts to bring this to us each month. A couple of things on fun facts. So special events team processed 75 special event applications since July. So July is our new year. It's our fiscal year. Starts then 75 special event applications. and 22 just for the past month of October. 22 just in this month, like literally one a day. And 15 have already been submitted for 2025. And a lot of work happens between multiple departments to make all of these things happen. So thank you to all the departments and staff that work hard to make sure that our community has safe and successful events throughout our community. Fire department, our ambulance transport, which we've talked about several times here. Just for the month of September, we transported 224 patients in our ambulances with Lake Havasu City Fire. I know it's a lot. And that's AMR has their own transports, of course. False alarms, 44 we had nearly half were smoke detector malfunctions or were unintentional. So just check your smoke detectors when you get home and make sure that they're working and functioning properly. And then a reminder for Thanksgiving holiday to keep an eye on your turkeys. Thanksgiving Day is the day with the most house fires in the United States. Is that so surprising? You'd think there's so many people in the house you would not do that, but it is. So let's make that not happen in Havasu. Here are a few reminders to prevent fires from our city safety officer Amelie. So stay in the kitchen while you're cooking. Do that on Thanksgiving and every day that you're cooking in the kitchen. Test your smoke alarms. Keep children away from the stove. Keep pot holders and food wrappers at least 3 feet away from the heat sources. Wear short, close-fitting, or tightly rolled sleeves when cooking. And keep the floor free from tripping hazards. So have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And I'm thankful for all of you and the great city we live in. Have a great month, and we'll see you in December.
Thank you.